chapter 4 last week on the state of the dead and the comfort that they could receive and would be able to give to each other, learning about the state of the dead from Paul's writings. And so we enter into chapter 5. It's still dealing with that major section, the second coming, that started in verse 13 of chapter 4 and goes through chapter 5, verse 11. While verses 13 through 18 of chapter 4 dealt with the state of the dead, now then he's going to deal in verses 1 through 3 of chapter 5 with the time is uncertain. And let's just go ahead and read these 3 verses. But of the times and the seasons, brethren, ye have no need that I write unto you, for yourselves know perfectly that the day of the Lord so cometh as a thief in the night. For when they shall say peace and safety, then sudden destruction cometh upon them as travail upon a woman with child, and they shall not escape. So he has given them comfort regarding the dead in Christ. But now then he is anticipating this other question. When? Been talking about the second coming and how, this marvelous event. When? Wouldn't you want to know? Of course, we have the information in the Bible that we should know already, that it's going to be uncertain. We're not going to know. They didn't have that. So he anticipates the question here in verses 1 through 3. They already had a knowledge of the Lord's coming. He is going to come again. But they did not have a knowledge as to the when it would take place. Paul's teaching while he was with them apparently taught them about the second coming, that he would come again. And we would assume that he also at least told them, much as he would be telling them here, that the time was uncertain, that we did not know, that there would be no times or signs that would precede his coming. But now then he puts it at the times and the seasons. There's been a great deal of discussion through the years of the exact meaning of times and seasons. Times is from a Greek word, and I'm going to switch over here so if y'all can't see it, that's the Greek word. If you look here, it would be pronounced chronos. Can you think of anything dealing with the word chronos that we use? Chronological. Timepieces used to be called chronographs. This is the basic meaning of it, time. The others that you see under it, like BDAG, those are different lexicons that would define it, but up here it gives us that general word. Time is there. When we come over to the word seasons, then it's the Greek word kairos. and defined as generally time and seasons. So you can see that the two terms are very similar, and that's why all of the discussion as to this idea of the times and the seasons. To try and distinguish them. For example, the Bible Knowledge Commentary states, times and dates refer to the ages, chronos, and events, chiron, or kairos, preceding the day of the Lord. So the ages, he defines it as that way, and events. W. Vine, in his expository dictionary, states, broadly speaking, chronos expresses the duration of a period. Kairos stresses it as marked by certain features. So you have the duration of the time, the period, and then certain events within it. Would be in the way in which he was defined it. Spiros Zodhiatus, I probably butchered his name, so he is a Greek who is a biblical scholar on Greek words, but he writes that chronos perceives time as quantitatively as a period measured by the succession of objects and events and denotes the passing of moments. Another word, kairos, season, is a time of accomplishment, considers time qualitatively as a period characterized by the influence or prevalence of something. Chronos is a period of measured time, not a period of accomplishment as kairos. Chronos embraces all possible kairoi, which would be the plural of kairos, and is often used as the larger and more inclusive term, but not the converse. So chronos embraces all of the seasons, basically. The time there, as it's translated, times, embraces all of the seasons, is what he's saying. That seasons would be a part of the times, the events that would be related to the times. Yes? Where am I reading it? That one was Zodhiatus, his definitions that he gives. I don't remember the name of the book. Let's see if I have it over here real quick. It's too much there. But those are different. I don't know if we've got that one in the library or not. BDAG we do, and I use that. W. Vine, I know we have that in the library. Vine or Zodhiatus. Chronos. Chronos. Nos. Yes. I was trying to think of an illustration that could use in relationship to times and seasons. Yes.
In Revelation, there's a scripture on time, and half-time, which gets interpreted as 3.5 years, so that time is more or less being used like years there.
That's true. It's equivalent. Actually, there's 3 different phrases that are used, time, and half-time, and 42 months, and then I've forgotten the number of days. So, in that situation, yes, it's a year, referring to a year. During the winter months, there are cold days. Winter months, you got months, the times, days, seasons, the cold day. Or during the year, that would be the times, we have 4 seasons. Well, we don't have those 4 seasons too much around here, but but that's the idea that seems to be expressed. And so it is that Paul had instructed them of the certainty of the Lord's coming. But when he comes would be uncertain. Okay, cool.
What would be like related to like prohibition, war, depression, times or periods of time that we were going through situations?
It would depend on the way in which it's used. You could, for example, say World War II lasted from 1941 to 1944, 45. In that situation, World War II would be more the times. And then the years, those specific years. So it would vary depending on what you're discussing. If you wanted to talk about the 21st or the 20th century, we had 2 different world wars. There you're talking about the century being the times and seasons, those world wars. So the times would be embracing more of the period. The seasons dealing more with specific events within the time. So at dinner time, you need to skip some, but couldn't help myself. That would just slipped out. The time, though, is uncertain. If you look at Matthew 26, Matthew 24. Yeah, I get that. And verse 36. Jesus there says, "But of that day and hour knoweth no man, no, not the angels of heaven, but my Father only." 24:36, Matthew. So no one knows. The strange thing is that we have people giving times in which or dates in which Jesus is going to come all the time. That's the best thing, but and the thing that amazes me is that people continue to listen to them even after they're wrong. And so, let's see, wasn't it Jehovah's Witnesses that decided after they had been wrong so many times that he came secretly? So it was a secret coming. It does. But they had to try and wiggle out of the mistakes that they had made. I mean, they've continued to set dates and continued to be wrong, and people still follow them. It sells books. I've got had a book in my library. It's cut up in now PDF file. 88 reasons why Jesus would come it was September, and he gave 3 days of 1988. Now then, how do you get out times and seasons? And no one knows. Well, that's just that's why we gave it general, because no one knows the specific time. And so to say this range of days would be what the scriptures allow and teach, according to them. But they were wrong. I think they sent that little booklet. It was 2 books made into one. Had on one side that one, and on the other side you had another one promoting the same thing, but it was a different book. So, and I believe they sent that to every church, not the Lord's church, but every church denomination in America. So, they got a bunch of egg on their face. But they don't care. Doesn't seem like. Premillennialism. If you go back to dispensational premillennialism, maybe I should say, not all premillennialists, because you have historical premillennialism, you have dispensational premillennialism. There's differences in them. Dispensational premillennialism set the time stamp of when Israel went back and occupied that territory that they have now, which was in anybody remember? It was in the 1940s. 1948. Then they would misuse what Jesus taught in Matthew 24, that this generation shall not pass away till all these things be fulfilled. A generation was 40 years. Add the 40 years to 1948, what year do you get? 1988. That's why that booklet came out. 88 reasons why Jesus would come in September, and I wish I remembered the days, but September of 1988. Their whole premise as far as the rapture and the 1,000-year reign of Christ here upon this earth, and then all of the other events that they have, was based upon that aspect of 1948, Israel occupying Jerusalem again. And our foreign policy, to a great extent within the United States, is based upon that. Why? Because anyone who blesses Israel will be blessed. So we have to bless Israel. And those who fight against Israel, they're going to be destroyed. So if we want the United States to be successful, we have to support Israel.
That's why Israel was given back the Palestinian area by the British because of that very reason. That's God's chosen people.
That's God's chosen people. Yeah. And if we want to be blessed, we have to give them that land. Have to make sure that they keep it. The only thing is, everything messed up. Those events didn't happen in 1988. Why? Because nobody knows the times or the seasons. By the way, and you remember the name of Hal Lindsey probably, and his book, The Late Great Planet Earth, I believe, was the title of it. In the first edition, he actually gave those dates of 1948 and 1988. Later editions, he took the dates, specific dates out. But isn't it interesting? These are the signs of the time. Something happened. These are the signs of times. Well, no, we don't have any signs of the time, and that's what he's saying here. The times and the seasons. So,
the destruction of Jerusalem with those signs and stuff, wars and rumors of wars.
I have asked, when in man's history have there not been wars and rumors of wars? That's one of the signs of the time. When in man's history has it not gone on? So, I mean, if you want to just use that as an illustration, when? Could have been any time. But also we hear this, the end times. While we might think in our human wisdom, and I'm using wisdom there loosely, that Jesus is going to have to come back pretty soon, as horrible as this world is. How can God continue to stand it? I mean, look at Sodom and Gomorrah. He finally had to destroy them. Look at the time of the flood. He destroyed them. He's going to have to do something. And yet we don't know. But sometimes we play into that. Well, these are the times that the Bible spoke about. No, it's not. That is actually a misuse of Matthew 24. And Matthew 24 is talking about the destruction of Jerusalem. So, as far as Christ's second coming, let me just add this. We'll probably get to it in a few minutes anyway, but the Lord's coming. In one sense, there is a second coming. And the Bible speaks of it as a second coming. However, there are many comings of the Lord. You talk about Matthew 24. It's spoken of as the coming of the Lord there. There's many of them. When we get to Revelation in another 50 or 60 years, there are comings of the Lord there. He's going to come in judgment upon a certain congregation there in Revelation 2 and 3. So there's many comings of the Lord. Then there is the second coming of the Lord, which will end everything. So, in verse 2 then, for yourselves know perfectly that the day of the Lord so cometh as a thief in the night. They had been given the information and thus know precisely that no one knows the time of Christ's return. They knew this from, obviously, the times, or the time in which Paul was in Thessalonica teaching them. That's why they knew it. Perfectly is from a word that means accurately or precisely, or it can mean carefully. You know accurately, you know precisely that the Lord will come as a thief in the night. The day of the Lord. It's an important phrase within the Bible. It finds its origin in the Old Testament. Primarily refers to a day in which the Lord would come in judgment upon evildoers. There is another aspect of it, that he will also come to reward the righteous in that. So it is both aspects many times. Sometimes it's mainly dealing with just one aspect, which would be coming in judgment upon someone or some nation. But it does oftentimes carry the other aspect, coming to reward the righteous. I've got listed many passages, and I'm not going to go through and read them. I'll reference them, starting back in the Old Testament in Isaiah 2 and verse 12, Ezekiel 13 and verse 5, Amos 5 verses 18 through 20, Zephaniah 1 verses 14 through 18, Joel chapter 1 and verse 15, Joel chapter 2 verses 1 through 3, Joel chapter 2 verses 31 and 32. And then we also have in the New Testament 1 Corinthians 5:5, 2 Corinthians 1:14, 2 Peter 3 and verse 10. So that aspect of the day of the Lord is an oft-used phrase dealing with that aspect of Christ coming in judgment upon someone or some group, some nation, and thus knowing he's going to come in judgment upon a nation here as a thief in the night, or upon everyone as a thief in the night. Again, this sets forth the fact of Jesus coming. Again, don't know when. Notice the so cometh. The day of the Lord so cometh shows that when Paul wrote this, that day was yet in the future. Later on, Paul would condemn a couple of men, saying that they were overthrowing the faith of some because they were teaching that the resurrection was past already. I'll say that that's exactly what those who believe in the realized eschatology or at AD 70 are doing. They're overthrowing the faith of some. That's why we're part of 2 debates about it with one of the loudmouths of that doctrine. Goes back really to, as far as the church is concerned, Max King in 1971, I believe it was, in which he came out with his book. And in that he advocated that the second coming of Christ, the judgment, that eternity, all heaven and hell, all of it began. Everything that is in the future, there's nothing in the future anymore. It all took place in AD 70. So, what are we living in? We're living in limbo, I guess so. I have asked many times the question to these individuals, since we are now in eternity and heaven and hell and all of this, it is realized, then am I in heaven or in hell? And which one are you in? And what's the difference? Not one of them has answered the question. They've all steadfastly just ridiculed the question. Well, I still want to know. One of the big arguments used in opposition to that doctrine is the Lord's Supper, because they hypocritically still partake of the Lord's Supper on the first day of the week. Yet we are to take that Lord's Supper till he comes. They claim he came in AD 70. That was it. So if he's came in AD 70, why are they still taking the Lord's Supper? And then I have ridiculed them a little bit in using Matthew 22, that in the resurrection, which they believe we are in, they're neither married nor given in marriage. Why are they married then? When they get out of their marriages, then I might take their doctrine a little bit more seriously, but it's still foolishness. They don't believe their own doctrine.
Some of them come universal.
They have. I'm not sure that many of those in the church have become such, even though their arguments end up being that way. But I do know in the denominational world, many of them do end up being universalist. That is, everyone's going to be saved. But this isn't so much to be about them. But the so cometh does show that it's still in the future. He will come as a thief in the night. This is just a figure of speech in which he uses a thief's visit to a sleeping homeowner. There's several passages that use this figure. Again, I'll just reference them. Matthew 24 and verse 43, Luke 12:39, 2 Peter 3 and verse 10, Revelation 3 and verse 3, and Revelation 16 and verse 15. Now then, I'm not so sure the two passages in Revelation deal specifically with the second coming, but more just a coming in judgment. These other passages do deal with second coming. The comparison that he's making is very simply the suddenness and unexpectedness of Christ's coming. It will be sudden, it will be unexpected. Let me give a little teaser, if you will, for Revelation again. Because in Revelation it says about the Lord coming quickly, and some have misused that, saying that it was going to be soon. And thus they believed that he was coming in the first century, and they were wrong, and the Bible taught that. Well, the word quickly there deals with the manner in which he comes, not when he comes. The Greek word that's translated quickly is always dealing with the manner in which he comes. That's the very meaning of the term. I believe that the Greek term is taku. Well, it's just sudden. It's quick. It's not going to take place over a long period of time. When he comes, it's going to be it. If you're talking about what I think as far as time, as the length of time, I think it's a couple of minutes. I mean, if you look at the events, you're talking about the Lord's going to be seen, there's going to be a trumpet, there's going to be a shout of the archangel. None of those things take a long period of time. The dead will be raised and meet their body in the air. Those who are alive, they're changed. None of those take a long period of time. And so it's a quick manner. But here it's sudden and unexpected. I used to watch a show. It Takes a Thief. There's been more than one TV show that had that name. This one, there were two thieves. They went in, the production crew and everyone went in and told the homeowners the entire situation. You're going to see how secure you are in your home. And then didn't tell them when, but all of them, after they went in, they stole everything. They always returned it, but they stole everything from them. They always were shocked. They went in and told you about it. It's going to happen. Didn't tell you when, though, did they? And so it was shocking to them. Well, that's a thief in the night. Found out that they would rather be thieves in the day than in the night, but if you're stealing from home. But it was shocking, surprising, because even though they had been told this is what's going to happen, they still were surprised by it. Now then, we've been told the Lord's coming. When? We don't know. Think it's going to surprise people? Think we will be shocked? I kind of think we will be, to a great extent. And it's unexpected. Sudden and unexpected. They were, even though in that TV show they were expecting to be robbed, because the production crew had gone in and told them the details about it, it was still unexpected. And thus the shock and the amazement of the homeowners. We're not going to know when. We don't have any way of telling. Only the Lord knows. And yet, through the years, time after time after time, people set dates or times, they're always proven wrong. I joked a couple of times that the Lord will never come. Why? Because he says he's going to come when no one knows, and we've got people setting dates for every day of the year now. So he won't be able to come. Well, that was a joke, obviously, an exaggeration on top of that, but no, everybody would be wrong. Because in fact, some who have stated in the years that, he's going to come on this date, and the response was, I know he will not come on that date. That was kind of the attitude of a lot of brethren. I know he will not come on that day because that's the day they've chosen, selected. We have that difficulty. We don't know when. He could come at any time. Our duty, our responsibility, would be to be ready at whatever time. We look forward to it with great expectation because of the salvation, or the completion of our salvation is taking place then. So, yes, we look forward to it from that standpoint, but still it's going to be unexpected. Yeah, don't worry about it. It's a good point. Why worry about it? It's not something you can control. It's not something that you will know about. You know it will come, so just be ready at any time. Now then, for example, going back to this idea of the thief in the night, and it takes a thief, a couple of guys that did this. People try and get prepared, though, don't they, for a thief? How many of you lock your doors at night? Why? Because we're trying to prepare to prevent some thief getting in. Put cameras up now all around. Have them wired to, a control station that calls the police. We do things to prepare. That's what we do in relationship to the second coming of Christ. We do the things that are necessary to prepare us for when he comes, even though we don't know when he will. Just like we wouldn't know when the thief in the night would come. Be prepared at all times.
He's going to come after they give up on him coming.
There were in some of his parables. There's the parable some of his householders gave up on his coming, and so they started mistraining, and they were not prepared. So yes, from that standpoint, there was that aspect of it. We'll start with verse 3 then, Lord willing, next week.